You know, and I guess that's what the story you always have to tell, so that then there is reality. So you know, you have to tell that story.
I agree.
That's really what it is.
Let me go back to my younger years. I grew up with a very low self-esteem. So I was always the back character. Funny enough, with my low self-esteem, God has graced me with very many talents.
Okay.
I play the piano, I sing. I'm naturally gifted.
Oh, you play the piano?
I started playing at 6 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm naturally gifted.
Wonderful.
And I'm very good at it.
Okay.
So I used to play a lot in high school. I was in CU, the Christian Union. I was in the choir, I was playing the piano, but I was still having my self-esteem issues. So I get out of school, but that was like a comfort zone.
Right.
So I finished from 4, then I'm blessed to go to my A-levels.
Yes.
There was a school called Arboretum Sixth Form College. It was next to State House.
Yes.
Back in 1999, 2000.
I knew that school.
You knew Arboretum?
Yeah, I used to see it, yes.
Yeah, I was in Arboretum. So I get to Arboretum and here is culture shock. And I'm like, what is here? You know, now, first of all, I've been exposed to, you know, there are whites, there are blacks, there are everything you can find there. Not everything, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And then I'm seeing people smoking during tea break. And some of them are girls, and they're black girls. And me, the only people I used to see smoking were on TV, and they were not black. So me, I'm like, where is this I have been brought? Okay, this is interesting.
Right.
So I used to keep a lot to myself still. I'm like, I'm waiting for 4 o'clock just to be picked up and go home. So at least I feel like, whew, I'm out of this crazy zone, you know.
Yes.
Then in my class, there was somebody who really wanted to become my friend. She was a very beautiful girl, and she was very popular.
Okay.
One thing I knew for sure is that I was not popular. I mean, I was always the backbencher.
Yes.
And me, I didn't think I was beautiful because I remember growing up, kids can be mean. I used to carry your ugly, carry your kids. So I grew up with that, you know.
Some kids were lying to you.
Kids can be mean,
yeah.
You know, and especially if you have a low self-esteem,
right.
And then now people throw in all that negativity, it just makes it worse. It compounds the situation.
Okay.
So this girl wants to become my friend. I'm wondering what's up with this girl. And she's, you know, every time in class, now even she wants to sit next to me. Then break time after tea, she's telling me, let's go out, I want to have a smoke. Because she used to call it a smoke.
Okay.
I'm like, smoke? She was a smoker. Embassy lights was her thing. Me, I'm in shock from here to I don't know where. I'm like, what? Yeah, then, you know, and she's making it look so nice.
Yes.
You know, because she's so pretty, and then when she's holding the cigarette, peer pressure is real. Then she's like, why don't you try one? And you know, she's a Kikuyu, but she has that accent.
Yes.
So she's gone to British schools all along.
All right.
So I'm like, okay, fine, let me try. And I hated it. I hated Embassy Menthol. Sorry, Embassy Menthol, guys. But I hated Embassy Menthol. Sorry, Embassy Light. So I moved to Embassy Menthol. There was a cigarette called SM.
Okay.
So I smoked SM for 19 years of my life.
Oh, my goodness.
And from the day it started, I smoked for 19 years.
Wow.
So we quickly became friends like that. And for me, I became an addict to cigarettes so quickly to the point of, like, if it's at home on a weekend, if I know my parents are not there, I'll go look for, I think cigarette was 2.50, 2 shillings, 50 cents or 5 bob, I can't remember. I would look for 5 bob, go buy a cigarette, go to the farm and smoke. If I don't have money for a cigarette, we used to have cows. So my dad used to buy hay. So I'd seen one of the workers, he used to put hay in a paper roll and light it, and
oh my goodness.
Until the day I was busted. My brother and I were busted. My mom was driving in, and now you don't know what to do. So my brother says, what? Put in the pocket.
Yes.
And we burning. See, we are burning. And my mother has driven in. We were beaten properly.
Right.
But she never suspected there was anything, so she just thought we were playing truancy.
Right.
So now back to my friend. Then she discovers I'm also a virgin.
Okay.
Because in school I had promised God when I was in Form 2 that I would get married when I'm pure. Alcohol and drugs were not even in my head. I had never seen my parents drinking. I had never seen them smoking, nothing.
Right.
Then she had broken her virginity at 15. And me, here I am, 19, and I'm still pure. But in the course of our friendship, I made friends with a boy in another international school. Then she told me, you know what? If you sleep with this guy, I'll bring you a bottle of wine.
Oh my goodness.
Are you hearing me?
This is a son of the devil.
Daughter
of the devil.
For lack of a better word.
Okay.
So she tells me, if you sleep with this guy, I'll bring you a bottle of wine. And in my head, I'm like, okay. And we had been friends with this boy for like a year. You know, nothing. As in, it's just platonic. No intention of anything. So now, peer pressure. You see, low self-esteem and peer pressure are very bad combination. So I'm like, okay, so we organized with this guy. And in high school, there are books we used to read called Mills and Boone, Jackie Collins, all those romantic novels that cheat you that, you know, he took me into the night sky. And so you're fantasizing what will happen when the deed actually happens.
Yes.
So the deed actually happened. And it was the worst deed. You know, it's not what was written in the books. It's just...
And the reality, two different things.
Yeah, ground is different. You know? So I was like, okay, God, it has happened. And I go home, because he actually booked some hotel somewhere. He came from a very, very wealthy family. So he booked a hotel somewhere. So we did whatever needed to be done. And I go home, and in my heart, I'm feeling, oh God, okay. Now, strike one, I've already started smoking. Strike two, I've broken my virginity. But in my head, I'm like, okay, fine, let's continue with life. So Monday, I go to school, and I tell her, guess what? It happened. And she was so excited, you could think it was her who was there. And she tells me, tomorrow, I'm bringing for you. True to her word, the following day, she brought me, it was a 250 ml, that's a quarter of red wine.
Yes.
And she told me, since you've never taken alcohol before, and you told me you have your own bedroom, when you go home at night, open the window, because alcohol has a smell.
Yes.
Yeah? And make sure you take it when people have gone to bed.
Sleep. Yes.
Me, I'm not remembering that the following day is what? School.
Okay.
You see, me, I've never taken alcohol, so I know people get drunk, but I don't know what drunk means.
Yes.
Hey, so I'm so excited. I've put the alcohol in my bag. In my head, I'm saying, oh my God, if my mom was to go through my bag and open this bag,
yes,
knowing the perfectionist she is, I don't know where I will sleep that day.
Yes.
So I've held on to my bag. I've been taken home. I've gone home. I've done my homework, done my chores, eaten supper. Those days news used to be at, was it 8 o'clock? Not 9 like now. So after 8, I'm waiting for people to go and sleep. My siblings have gone to bed. My dad has gone to bed. My mom is still hanging around the way mothers do, checking the windows. I don't know what they check for, but they always check for something. So me, I'm in my room. I'm just waiting. I'm waiting to hear their door. 10 o'clock, 11. At midnight, around midnight, she goes to bed. I'm like, thank you, God. I'm thanking him for the wrong reasons. So here is Carol with her light off, with her wine in her hand.
Just so the ladies and gentlemen, you follow this conversation. We are talking about alcohol addiction, and I'm asking, Carol is telling us her real story, what exactly happened, and this very graphic, kind of like fast time is very, very important, because that's really what makes or breaks the whole thing.
That's true.
All right, go on with that story. Sorry for interrupting you.
No problem.
Yes.
So I keep checking if I've locked my door. I'm the one with the key, but I keep checking if I've locked my door, just in case my mother Margaret might have a key, or she might sense in the spirit that her firstborn is up to no good.
Yes.
So now I've peeped, I've seen their light is off. So I've sat on my bed, my light is off. I've opened my window. I've opened my wine, taken my first sip. Ugh, yuck. I've taken a second sip, nothing. Then I took a gulp. I'm feeling nothing. Then I remembered my brother who follows me started drinking way before me. He started drinking in high school.
Right.
He had told me once, the day you start drinking, Caro, if you want to get drunk, you drink quickly and then you bend. Then the alcohol does what? It gets to your head.
Right.
You get a head rush.
Yes.
So that's exactly what I did. I remembered his words. So I bent. Nothing. I'm feeling nothing. So I drank. I finished to 50 ml. I looked at that bottle. Now I'm looking at it with the light from outside. I'm looking at it. I'm like, what's happening here? Okay. So I was so disappointed. I put the bottle back in my bag and I went to bed. And the following morning, I wake up fresh as a daisy. It's like I'd been taking water the night before. So I go to school and I ask her, what on earth was that you gave me? She asks me why. I told her I didn't get drunk. She says, what? You didn't even feel anything? I told her I felt nothing. Please note, this was 250 ml, 12%. 12% is very high content.
Yes.
You know, even beers are like 4%, 5%. I think the most is 7% or whatever.
Yeah.
And then she tells me, you have a problem. That was in 2000 and... That was when? About 2009. No, which year was that? 1999.
Right.
Little did I know that her words would follow me for almost 20 years. So I never touched alcohol again. I did Form 5. We finished Form 6. At the end of Form 6, I can't remember where I lied to my parents I was going. In our house, the only place you could go out, as in sleepover, is if you are going for a church vigil or there's a family friend whom they know, you know, so they can make sure you're there. So I must have lied I was going to either or. So I was taken to a club in Westlands with my best friend and my new boyfriend. And she tells me, remember last year I brought you wine and you didn't get drunk? Let's see what happens by now. By this time, I'm a very heavy smoker.
Okay.
I'm such a heavy smoker to the point of, if I have to go home and when I'm at home and I need to smoke, I used to spray my mouth with perfume, you know, to get rid of the smell because chewing gum is not working.
Right.
So I have to spray my mouth with perfume. So they buy me, it was some cider. So the first can, the second can, third can, fourth can, fifth can, nothing. Sixth can is what took me out. And the next thing I remember is that I woke up in their house because she was living in Kikuyu with her parents. And I was so sick, I was vomiting and everything. I didn't know that is what is called hangover. And I said, never will I touch alcohol. But we are told, never say never. Because I got home, I was so sad, I was so repentant, I was so sick. I slept, I think, for 2 days. My mom is wondering what's wrong. I'm telling her I'm just feeling, and I'm shaking, but I'm just feeling yuck. Okay. The following year, I was privileged to go and study overseas. I went to Malaysia. I was to study advertising, multimedia, and broadcasting. I was to do 2 years in Malaysia and then do 2 years in Australia.
Right.
My parents were not wealthy, so they had done for me a harambe. In those days, we used to have harambes. So
Yes.
they have invited everybody to send off their firstborn
Their firstborn Carol to
open the way for the rest
Malaysia.
to Malaysia. When I got to Malaysia, I knew I'm not going to stay here. I just hated Malaysia. From the time I landed in Kuala Lumpur, I just hated the place. I knew here I'm not going to stay.
Right.
And so quickly I befriended all the Kenyans who were there, who were not many, and then there were Botswanas also, and Nigerians not really, but you know, Botswanas and Kenyans. Some of us used to live in the same apartment. Now I quickly moved from, you see, now I'm trying to feel something in my heart that I don't even know what it is. So now I've moved from beers because I would take beer and I don't get high.
You know, the whole idea of the mechanism of addiction, how it grows. Yeah. So go on and open up that space. Yes.
So that's where tolerance checks in, because now beers were not working for me. By the time I was living in Kenya, I used to do a beer and a chaser. A chaser is like a beer and a tot of a spirit.
Yes.
Or a gin. Then now my tolerance levels have changed completely. So I moved to spirits completely and I left off beers. I would only take beers when I'm broke.
Right.
Yeah, because in Malaysia, beer was not too expensive.
Okay.
Now I'm doing spirits. I'm doing 2 packets of cigarettes a day. Those are 40 sticks. And now I'm toying with marijuana. I was introduced to marijuana by the Malays there. But I did marijuana for like 2 months. And like we see on Facebook, it's complicated. So I left that WhatsApp group. And I stuck to cigarettes and alcohol.
Right.
And my classes started failing. My teacher started writing back home. My parents would call me. When they call me, I'll make sure I'm sober so that they can't sense that there's anything. But they'd send my grades back. My teachers would send my grades back and they'd see things are bad. Now, I was the life of the party. I'm also a dancer until now. So I used to be the life of the party in Kuala Lumpur. Anywhere Karo is,
Yes.
Kenyans will come.
Right.
And that was it was a given. That was just me. And so I'd move from state to state. Now I found a new boyfriend there, Kikuyu boyfriend, who was also a drunkard. I don't even know if he's alive today. So we'd move from state to state to state to state. And my housemates would tell me, Carol, you're living a very dangerous life. You're going to die. And it's true, because I survived so many near-death accidents. I survived so many near-rape situations. I would find myself in a club. I've gone to the washroom. The next thing I know, I'm on the floor because I've blacked out. And some man is trying to unzip me, but for whatever reason, he's been unable. And not once or twice or thrice.
Right.
And I always attribute that to the prayers of my parents. And prayer is very powerful and very key. And I think that is what upheld me until today.
Yes.
So one time when I'm out partying in a different state called Nilai, outside of Kuala Lumpur, when I come back, I find the house is empty. Everyone has moved out. Phew. All the Kenyans have moved out. All the Botswanas have moved out. Why? They are saying this girl is going to die, and we don't want her to die in our hands. Now, I can't afford that rent. Rent in Kuala Lumpur is very expensive. So what does that mean for me? It means I have to come back home. This is only after 1 year, and I was supposed to be there for 2 years. So my parents sent me a ticket. I come back home. Now I'm even sending a suicidal note. If you don't send me a ticket, I'm going to kill myself. A ticket was sent. I came back. At the airport, they couldn't recognize me because the Carol who left is not the Carol who came back. The Carol who left was very brown and very fat. The Carol who came back was very thin and very dark. There's a thing that drinking hard liquor does. It messes up with your melanin. You know, it darkens you. It darkens you from the inside. So from the inside, it permeates on the outside.
Right.
So we almost passed each other, or rather, they almost passed me at the waiting.
Those are your parents almost mistaking you, missing you completely.
Yeah, they couldn't believe it was me.
Amazing, amazing. So if somebody right now has been toying around with alcohol and some kind of addiction, how do you know you are in trouble before you are really in trouble? So is there a test? Is there a way? You are an addiction professional. Maybe there is like a test. You can test now and know, no, I am at 8, and the minute I hit 9, I'm gone.
Okay. The simplest test I normally give people is called the CAGE test. CAGE, C-A-G-E.
Right.
C stands for cut down.
Right.
Have you tried to cut down on your drinking and have been unable?
Yes.
A stands for anger. Have you been angry at yourself?
Right.
Or have people been angry at you because of the way you drink?
Okay.
G stands for guilt.
Yes.
Do you feel guilty every time you go to open a bottle or to take a sip of a drink?
Okay.
And E is called eye opener. In Kiswahili, kutoa lock.
All right.
Do you have to kutoa lock in the morning?
Yes.
Or do you have alcohol at your bedside or in your house? That's the first thing you need to drink because of the night that you had last night.
Right.
If you have answered yes to any of the above,
Any,
you're in trouble.
you're in trouble.
Let's not mince words.
Right.
You're in trouble.
That's a warning sign.
Yes.
Wow. Amazing. Those of you that are following this conversation, I tell you, the Gigi Report is a platform for deep and honest conversations. Carol is telling us her story. It's a dark story. It's a story of diving deep into the hell of addiction, alcohol addiction for that matter. And Carol, when we come back, because we're going to go into a short break,
right.
When we come back, I want you to, tell us why alcohol itself is probably one of the worst addiction. And and of course, it kind of seemed to attract the other addictions as well. So we are talking about the battle for addiction. And I believe you're going to learn something amazing. And those of you that are involved in counseling, those of you that are pastors, those of you are parents, I want to remind you, just in case you don't hear this, we have a program coming up next month in April, on the 8th of April, 2022 at All Saints Cathedral. We'll be gathering in a forum we are calling Inspiring Leadership Forum, where we're going to be talking to young people, teens, college, and university graduates. Please, let's gather. And Carol will be there to talk about her story and also give us ideas. So we'll take a very short break and we'll come back to this conversation shortly. So don't go away. Just take a cup of coffee and let's come back to continue with this conversation.
This Encourager Pastor, we are having a preview into the prophetic.
Church in Kenya has to go past denomination, has to go past my building, my belief, and we have to start galvanizing ourselves. And this is the time for the apostolic to really rise up and do the work of galvanizing the church to arrive at its full strength.
What should be the protocol of handling prophetic stuff?
For every pastor and leader should become not, oh gosh, I'm not essential, but what is my essence?
Right.
I think it's in an emergency that we discover our essence.
Most prophets stand alone like a big elephant in the forest. So what we in essence say, the fact that you're prophetic and you can hear from God, you got to identify your company.
Go back to God. Be able to understand all that the Lord is saying, subject it to accountability, and wait on the Lord to tell you which measure of it you are meant to share for the empowerment of the people.
Welcome back. This is the GG Report. We are talking about my battle with alcohol addiction, the story of Carol Kagia, a story of faith, hope, everything she could pull to stay alive. And she's given us a lot of information. And before we went to the break, she talked about the stages, how to know whether you're in trouble, the cage model, and we don't want to revisit that. But there's something else, Carol, you've you've mentioned the stages of kind of addiction, the pathway to darkness, so to speak. So can you describe that for us?
There are various stages that lead to addiction, and it's any kind of addiction,
right?
Not necessarily alcohol, because when we talk about addiction, there are two kinds of addiction.
Yes.
There's chemical addiction, which is alcohol and hard drugs or substances, and there's process addiction.
Right.
Process addiction is things like masturbation, pornography, gambling, food, anything that is not chemical related.
Right.
That is a process addiction.
Right.
So for any form of addiction, there are different stages. We start with experimental.
Yes.
Like me. When I was given the bottle of wine,
yes,
that was experimenting.
Yes.
Then after that, it becomes compulsive. You go for a party, you have a drink, in our days, oh my, did I say our days? In our days, we used to go for parties and then we were given fruit punch.
Yes.
But it is punched with vodka or something. So that is just compulsive because you've been invited somewhere, you've gone for a social event. Then it becomes habitual.
Right.
We've moved from experimental to compulsive, now to habitual. Habitual means my neighbor's cow has died, I'll drink. My sister's gotten a baby, I'll drink. There's always a reason to drink. The neighbor's cat has died,
yes,
I'll drink.
Yes.
There's always a reason to drink.
Yes.
By the time you've reached...
Including stupid ideas like your neighbor's cat died.
Even the neighbor's cat died or the cat ate the rat, stuff like that.
Yes.
So now you've reached that stage of, now it's habitual. By the time you are moving from habitual to addiction, it's a very thin line.
Okay.
It's borderline.
Yes.
You could go either way.
Yes.
You could either backtrack or now you go in full throttle.
Okay.
At habitual is where you'll hear people who are called binge drinkers.
Right.
Binge drinkers are the people who can drink Monday to Monday, daily. And it's heavy drinking, not at 2 drinks you go home.
Yes.
Monday to Monday. And then after that, they stop.
Okay.
They stop for like a week, 2 weeks, a month, 3 months, then they go back. That is where binge drinking falls into between habitual and addiction.
Right.
Of course, now after that, you're an addict.
What is the role of parents in people who become victims of alcoholism?
Most people get into addiction either because of genetic predisposition. That means that there's someone or there are people in your lineage,
yes,
who suffer from that particular addiction. So chances are you'll get caught in. The number 2 category of people who get into addiction are because of childhood trauma.
Right.
Traumatic experiences that happened in your younger years that have festered subconsciously. And so now your form of warmth, or should I say your run to, is alcohol or drugs.
Yes.
That's how it normally happens.
Okay.
Most of the time.
Okay.
That's how it happens.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it doesn't have to be the home environment, maybe enabling or
it could. It also plays a very big role. For example, if your parents are drunkards, chances are you'll either get in or hate the habit completely.
Okay. All right.
That's how it happens also.
All right.
You know, and it's unfortunate because like this time for COVID, when bars were closed, people used to call and order in alcohol. So you drink in the house.
Right.
So you have your alcohol on the table and your kids are around. But you as a parent, you're not seeing like it's a big deal.
Right.
And then later, when your child starts drinking, you're shouting at this child. You have no right to do that.
Absolutely.
This child witnessed you drinking, you know. And now to make it worse, I think God just has a way. It becomes worse. Now you're the one who is crying. But you're crying, yet you are the one who introduced this child, knowingly or unknowingly, to this substance.
Absolutely.
That's how it happens.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. So now, let's talk about your journey out of, I'll call it the abyss, the hell.
It
How
is
did
hell,
you-
by the way.
How did you get out?
For me to start my journey to recovery, it has taken a long time.
Okay.
It has taken a long time.
Okay.
I had to hit rock bottom, and I mean literally. Let me just cut, because it's a very long story. And for those who want to hear more, they'll
Yeah.
come for the forum
Yes.
on the 8th of April, where I speak in detail. But here, because of time, I'll cut it short. At some point, I got into a very toxic relationship
Okay.
with my daughter's dad. So we ended up living together, and by this time, by the way, I used to have very good jobs. God has gifted me with good jobs every time, and I would fire myself. I fire myself after I get my salary. A week later, I even have a better job. That's how I ended up working even outside the country. I've worked in South Africa, I've worked in Rwanda. So it's God had just always been on my side. But it reached a point, and that's the problem with especially alcoholism. Alcoholics always quit jobs.
Right.
If you find somebody who is just quitting, and they've not been fired, they've not gotten a better job, you just keep quitting. And you're not quitting because you're going to start a business, you're just quitting. Check that. There's something they're doing silently.
Okay.
That is not so. I ended up with this guy, and of course, my parents were not for it. And many reasons which I can discuss at a later date. So my dad he's a developer. So he gave us a home. But it reached a point where this relationship became so toxic, it was violent. So when my daughter was 6 months, we broke off. And so me, I have the home to myself. Now it's me and my kids. Now Carol has quit her last job. By this time, I was working in business development for one of the top law firms in Nairobi. I got my last salary. It was over Easter. I'll never forget. After that, I quit. I switched off my phone and I disappeared even from my own home for 3 days. Now, after 3 days, I've come back. Please note, my daughter is 6 months. I've come back. I don't know what we're going to eat. The house girl is looking at me like I'm a woman from Mars. I've been in a bar for 3 days with the same clothes. And I have a child at home. So now I have to release my house girl because I can no longer afford her. Now I have no money. What do I start doing? I start selling my household wares. The way you see men doing. Selling fridge, I don't know what fridge, started doing funny things. The last thing for me to sell, and I used to sell them to a Shylock. There's a Shylock who used to check in like every other time. And my neighbors used to wonder, this car that is always coming and picking stuff. So I used to lie to my neighbors, I'm relocating to where? To Dubai. So one time, this Shylock, when he's going around my house, he says, "Hey, Caro." Now for those in the diaspora who are listening, let me just put in English. So he says, "Caro, your house doors are very nice." And he left it at that, and he went. Now, here I'm broke. I have moved from high-end brands of alcohol. Now I'm drinking those things for 120 bob.
Right.
Okay. So with 500 bob, I'm sorted. Please note, even my gas has gone. I'm using those 2 green stoves for 300 bob. That's
Yes.
how low I had sunk.
Wow.
And I have a small baby. So if I lie to you, because that's what alcoholics also are, liars, con men, manipulators, name them. If I call you and I cry, and I'm a salesperson by profession, I've done sales for 16 years. There's
Yes.
nothing I can't sell. Even you, Gigi, the way you're seated here, I can sell you right now.
Right.
The people who are watching you. And
Yes.
you'll go.
You get paid and they come
yeah,
demanding from me.
and they'll take you. And
Right.
you'll go.
Yes.
So I'll lie to you, then you'll send me like 600 bob on M-Pesa. 600 bob, I already have 4 quarters in my head. I have cigarettes, my daughter will eat Weetabix for 25 bob. Itheri for 10 bob for me. That was my life. That's how low I had sunk. So then I remember this guy had told me, hey, Carol, your house doors are nice. So I sent him a please call me. So he came and I told him, unlock all these doors. My house was a 3-bedroom. All those doors went for 500 bob.
Oh my goodness. God have mercy on you.
The last thing I was to sell was my passport. Imagine I'd found somebody to buy my passport. Did you know passports can be bought?
Oh my
goodness. And it was going to go for 10,000 bob.
Wow.
I had said after that 10,000 bob, I was going to buy medicine. By that time, my son had already moved home. My parents had seen here, things are bad.
Yes.
My dad had started talking to me about rehab in 2007. This is 2017 now. Now it's only me and my daughter. So I'd said I'll give my daughter away for adoption because I didn't want to give her to the family of the whoever. Then after that, I commit suicide. And prior to that, a few days earlier, my dad had come. He says that he hooted, I didn't hear. I think I was drunk. Then he says he just walked in. And it's true, he just walked in because there is no door.
Even the main door had been sold.
What are you saying?
You had sold the main door.
Yes. But I have my gate. You know you can't enter my gate, so.
Yeah.
But now that day I had not locked, whatever. I think God had just purposed it that way. So the guy just checks in. Then he asks me in Kikuyu, Jerry, why you auctioned? Then he's coming to the kitchen, he's finding cigarettes. I'm trying to hear them saying, don't even bother. Why you auctioned? I said, no, I was not auctioned. He said, where are your things? I said, I sold them. Again in Kikuyu. You know, now he's shocked. Why? I said, because I was broke. And though you're smelling of alcohol, my counter is full of cheap alcohol. Then he's asking me in Kikuyu, where is the baby? I don't even know where my daughter is. She's in a nappy somewhere. Instead of diapers, she's in a nappy somewhere. My dad just tells me in Kikuyu, Jerry, I loved my mom so much. And you were named after my mom. I'm not going to let you go like this. And he just drove off and he went. I cried. You know, alcoholics, the tears are here. Then after 2 seconds, they go on, they move on. But, and you know, by that time, I really hated myself. I really hated myself to the point of all the mirrors in my house, I had covered them because I couldn't look at myself. I had become so thin and so dark, I couldn't look at myself.
So, at what point?
At that point, the following morning when I woke up, is when I said enough was enough. So I sent my dad a please call me. But this time he's the only one who's responding to my please call me. Because anybody else who please call me knows they have to send me money.
Yes.
Now I tell him, Daddy, I need to see you. He says, you know where we live, you come. He's not even asking me if I have fare. So I remember I put my daughter in her carrier bag. How I had not sold that carrier bag, I don't know.
Right.
So from where we were staying until home was like 6 kilometers. So I walked all the way with my withdrawals, sweating alcohol. I walked all the way home. And I told my dad, by the way, I'm tired. I need help. He says, finally, you've accepted. 10 years later, he said yes. So for me, I went into rehab voluntarily. And I was in rehab for 89 days. I left a day to my 37th birthday.
Right.
And a week later is when now I now joined school and started doing addiction as a profession.
Right.
And now I'm certified. And from there, that is where now my initiative, Caroline Kagia Wellness Initiative, was born.
At that point when we woke up that morning, what exactly triggered that move? Did you hear a voice from heaven? And did you decide, I am not going to die? I think I'm worth more than the pennies I'm worth now.
It's funny you should ask that, because as much as I had sunk to the dogs, for lack of a better word, there was still something. There was still that hope. And for me, I would say it's not hope in myself. I think it's for my dad especially. Right. My dad had refused to give up. My parents are prayerful, but I think my dad prays more.
He refused to give up for you. He refused
to give up completely. Even the times he would come and say, I've washed my hands. In the evening, he would send me a text, quoting scripture. He would write me letters. My dad loves writing. He would
Right.
write me physical letters, you know. He's that kind of a guy. And
Thank God for daddies.
yes, for good daddies. So I would say he's been my support. And I've done bad things to that man. I've done bad things to that man. I have sold his laptops. You know, there's a laptop he had sent me to buy in Dubai. I came back with it. I got broke, took it to a Shylock. I never meant to sell it on purpose, but you know Shylocks, if you don't pay on time. Another one they had bought in the US, very expensive. I've done bad things to that man. But I always say that he's my epitome of Jesus on this earth, because I think if it wasn't for his present support, honestly, I would not be here.
Absolutely.
I would probably have died at the age of 21.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, as you watch this and follow this conversation, I'm talking to Carol Kagia. She has been to hell and back. And thank God that there was a father who stood up for her, who never gave up on her. And there is a Father in heaven. Tell us about your story of finding Christ, because you have a testimony.
You're a pastor, maybe you can explain this. I
Yeah.
have gotten saved, backslidden, saved over 500 times, I think, in my life.
Okay.
I don't know.
Whatever that
Whatever-
drama is.
Yeah.
You know, you get saved, you backslide, you get saved.
Backslide, you rededicate, backslide, like that.
Yeah.
So when I went into rehab, and I knew I was going to get saved.
Yes.
I had purposed it that Sunday.
Yes.
I had said, I even told God, that Sunday I'm going to get saved.
Yes.
So, because I used to watch Joyce Meyer a lot in my room, in our room, we had a TV. So
Yeah.
that Sunday I had purposed. And let me tell you one thing. Do you know, by the time I was going into rehab, the way we were having a conversation, I had forgotten how to talk. It happens.
Okay.
I only used to talk to my bottle, the woman and the wines and spirits, and my 6-month-old baby. Conversation had left me completely. When I rededicated my life to Christ in rehab, I don't know what happened. The Holy Spirit just checked in and he took over.
You recovered your logos, your word,
Completely.
the word of life.
Even word that I didn't know that I had.
Yes.
All of a sudden, I just became vocal. I became very prayerful. I used to wake up. I was a loner in rehab, but I was a very prayerful loner. And I'm telling you, when I came out, I did something called Engage.
Yes.
It's called Safaricom, Engage by Safaricom. And that it was a game changer in my life.
Yes.
It opened doors in places I never thought. The Holy Spirit came and did something, and he continues to work until now.
Yeah.
Even those times when I feel things are just thick.
We're talking about 2017,
We're
about
talking about
5 years
5
ago.
years ago.
Yeah.
It's not been a then.
Right.
Unfortunately, during COVID, I had been invited to go and speak in the US.
Right.
And everything was ready, and stuff happened.
Yeah, you couldn't travel.
Then depression checked in. Then I relapsed. And finally I'm able to talk about it, because I said, you know what, even those who throw stones, there's no saint.
Yes.
I'd rather just share the truth instead of lying about it. I relapsed. And it was bad.
Okay.
And that's when I realized actually what relapse truly is. Relapse does not happen at once.
Right.
It's a process. It starts in the mind.
Right.
But then you're going to actually buy that drink. It had already happened.
Okay.
So I relapsed, and who was the first one to catch it again? My dad, because I went under.
Okay.
And something had to be done about it. So something was done about it, and here I am today.
Praise the Lord.
Amen.
Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. I find your story really captivating. I mean, I don't know whether to say captivating, but it's a story of a journey through hell and fire and trouble. But here you are. Thank God you survived.
Yes.
Thank God you survived. But before we end the issue of, tell me a little bit about rehabilitation, the role rehabilitation, the option of rehabilitation, what it plays. And if someone doesn't go into a rehabilitation, do they have any other option? Yeah, so I think you can talk about that.
Okay.
Because there are people, some of the people watching, we talked about this off the set, that almost everyone, if they look around themselves, their family or people around them, you don't need to look far out of your family circles.
Yeah.
And there is someone struggling with alcohol.
Yeah.
So we all have someone we could actually help.
Yeah.
So what's the role of rehabilitation and why is it important?
Rehabilitation is important. For me, it worked. What does rehabilitation mean? It means it's simply taking somebody from their normal space and taking them to a place where they have no interaction with whatever they've been used to.
Right.
Which could be people, places, and things.
Okay.
These are the three things that make people get stuck in addiction.
Right.
So rehabilitation is simply moving somebody from one space to another, and you get to clear your system. There are people who have to go through something called detox.
Yes.
What is detox? If your system is so heavily
intoxicated,
completely, you have to put on drip or give medication for you to swallow to get your system clear and to get your mind clear.
Okay.
Because once your mind is clear, everything else falls into place.
All right.
People have many views about rehabilitation. For me, rehabilitation works.
Okay.
If you go in with the right mindset.
Okay.
Somebody may say, but I've taken this person to rehab. They were here, they relapsed. They were here, they relapsed. They were here, they relapsed. That's true. It happens.
Yeah.
But why do people relapse? People relapse when you have not come face to face with why you're struggling with your addiction.
Okay.
I can take you to the best rehabs in this world. I can pay all the money for rehab. But if you, as DG, are not ready to face the things that you have been battling with for life, you will be taken from. And that's why you find people who are so bitter, saying, but I keep taking my child to rehab, but they never recover. But it's because maybe that person has not yet come to terms with what it is. What took me there? Maybe I was sexually assaulted as a child. Maybe something, my parents went through a divorce. I've never been able to talk about it. Those deep, innate things.
Yes.
And then again, you also need to consider, where am I taking my person for rehab? Most of the rehabs here, GG, are business.
Right.
Because I can start a rehab today. We are in March. By
Yes.
December, you'll see me driving a Range Rover Sport, parking it right outside there.
Yes.
Because it's business.
Yes.
People are desperate to get their people healed.
100,000 a month or something.
Even more.
Right.
There are some that even charge 150,000 for 6 weeks.
Yes.
So if me as Caro, I go into rehab and I'm not ready to deal with, I've struggled with porn, I've struggled with masturbation, I've struggled with anger, I've struggled with all these things. I hate my parents. It's only that I've never been able to tell them. Then you take me to a rehab where even the counselor has no idea what they are doing. Why shouldn't I relapse when I come out? I will relapse.
Okay.
Okay.
So in
Then
other words,
also family therapy, because
Yes.
there's something called family therapy, whereby the family is supposed to come in after a while to discuss with the person inside what is the problem. Many families don't do that.
okay.
They don't.
So there is that need for family therapy.
It's a must. It is so important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Carol, as you can tell, we may not be able to cover everything that we would possibly. There are still questions. I'm sure our viewers are still left with question marks and few things here and there. But we are asking them to come for the forum.
Yes.
8th of April at the All Saints Cathedral. Levy TV is part of the sponsoring team. Please come and learn. We're going to talk about not only just alcohol addiction, but other problems, stress, depression, and then we also talk about the positive stuff about career and business and stuff like that. All right. So, Carol, before we go, I would like you to take a full 1 minute. You have a message for young people out there who might be looking for the good life, for the wonderful things in life. So really your final message to our viewers.
What I'd like to tell our viewers is that all is not lost. In case you've already started using whatever you're using,
Right.
You can still stop. It's
Right.
not too late. As long as you're under the sound of my voice, it's not too late.
Okay.
Yeah? If you have not started, please don't start. I am one of the lucky few to be alive, to sit here and share my story.
Yes.
People like for example, I'll use an example of my son's dad, whom we buried last year, November, because of alcohol.
Right.
He was not so lucky. to get away with this. Not many are.
Yes.
Many people end up in psychosis, which
Yes.
is another story for 8th of April.
Right.
But in the meantime, just remember Jesus loves you. And whatever hole you're trying to fill, because all of us are trying to fill a hole with all these drugs and substances and all this pornography, masturbation. Imagine Jesus is the only one who can fill that hole.
Right.
Allow him, give him that space. Take all your weaknesses before him, and you'll be surprised at the makeover he'll do in your life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we got to bring this to a close. Carol Kagia, she is addiction professional, addiction professional. She has been trained and she has worked many people. She has counseled a lot of people. If you'd like to get in touch with her, the numbers are on the screen. The social media platforms are available. You can send us a request and a question, and we can pass that information to her. And please look out for her. She's she's always talking she's in the public domain, talking about her story. And ladies and gentlemen, pastors, teachers, churches, you don't bury your head in the sand. There are real issues and challenges with addiction, but there is hope. There is a way out. So we'll edit there. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching and following this program. I am your host, Godfrey Gichuki. Thank you so much. God bless you. I wish you God's blessing and victory